You'll never guess the latest idea from David Lamy to combat what he calls irregular migration, more properly referred to as illegal migration, at least at the point that they enter the country, which is illegal at that point. Or maybe you will. I'm starting to sound like the BBC. You guessed it, it's to send yet more money abroad. But the reasons will probably have you somewhat alarmed. But it also comes along with a stark admission that these migrants are coming here as economic migrants, at least in my interpretation of the document that I'm about to show you, and the reasoning why. So if you like this kind of brutal, say it as I see it approach from a barrister of England and Wales with no attachment to media or anybody else, I'm completely independent, please do subscribe to the channel. I am on a mission for 1 million subscribers, and only you can help me get there, because after all, I depend on you, the viewer, and I will be objectively open and brutal with you, even if that involves calling something out as being a bit silly. Because when I say I'm objective, what I mean is I will start from a neutral perspective, I will analyse it, and then I will tell you what I really think of it. Now, you're free to disagree with that, and I'm sure there's people on both ends of the political spectrum and everywhere in between that might disagree with me. That's absolutely fine. But let's get to this and let's see what I'm talking about. So, where do we start? David Lamy, Foreign Secretary, has now announced new funding to go to Tunisia in North Africa. Now, it says UK boosts support for projects in North Africa to tackle drivers of small boats arrivals in Europe and UK. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure whether they mean the literal drivers, the men driving these boats, or the driving forces that are driving people to come to the UK. That'll be important in a minute as to whether or not this is really economic migration, which many people say that it's absolutely not. But we'll come to reasoning why I think this admits that it is, at least in part, throughout this video. During a visit to Tunisia, David Lamy announces new multi-million pound funding for programmes to educate and upskill would-be migrants to become more employable in their home country and support reintegration for migrants who wish to return. So let's break that down. They want to educate and upskill people in Tunisia who would otherwise be migrants to the UK so that they become more employable in their home country of Tunisia and support people that want to go back to Tunisia. And so he's announcing this package of £5 million to boost a UK funded programme in that region to upskill those migrants, making it less likely that they will make the dangerous small boats journey to Europe, including the UK, and undermine the country's border security. I presume they mean our border security. The UK has also announced this is on top of that, so on top of the £5 million, the UK has also announced up to £1 million of funding, get this, to the International Organisation for Migration's Assisted Voluntary Returns and Reintegration Programme to support transiting migrants who have no legal right to be in Tunisia and return and reintegrate them to their home country. So you heard that right, and I think I'm understanding this correctly. This is a new plan to spend up to £1 million for what they call the International Organisation for Migration's Assisted Voluntary Returns and Reintegration Programme to support migrants who are in Tunisia but have no right to be in Tunisia, to return them from Tunisia to reintegrate them to their country of home origin, wherever that might be. So we are spending money abroad not just to educate them so that they are better equipped not to come here, but also that have no legal right to be in Tunisia to return them to where they came from. So we are effectively paying to do Tunisia's migration control. That is how I read that. Someone please correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how that reads to me. While in Tunisia, the Foreign Secretary, David Lamy, will be accompanied by the recently appointed Border Security Commander, Martin Hewitt, for meetings with the Tunisian counterparts to discuss ways of strengthening cooperation on both countries' fight against people smuggling and irregular migration. They'll meet members of the Tunisian National Guard who are using UK-supplied drones and night vision control to intercept small boats carrying irregular migrants under cover of darkness. And David Lamy says through working with countries like Tunisia, we are addressing the root causes of irregular migration. Now, let's do the balancing act. I understand the logic. What he's saying here is if we educate people in those countries and we upskill people in those countries, they are more employable in those countries, they are more likely to earn money in those countries. Therefore, wait a minute. That is an admission that they are coming here as economic migrants, is it not? Because if we are upskilling and educating people in Tunisia, by way of example in this post here, then surely that means that if the plan is to improve their ability to earn money and therefore improve their living standards there, that they won't come here. That is an economic migrant in any sense of the word. Again, do let me know what your thoughts are in the box below. He goes on, by improving people's living standards in their home country, they are less likely to make the perilous journey to the UK, enrich criminal gangs in the process, and exploit our immigration system. Now, in theory, I can agree that the theory holds up, that if people's living standards are higher there, they are less likely to come here. However, the criminal gangs aspect, there will always be criminal gangs, and unless you absolutely make the deterrent strong enough and you take away what is really valuable to those gangs of bringing them here in the first place, just like anything else, if there's value in it, there will be someone else to take their place. So I don't quite think that that's going to work, frankly. But then he goes on, the support I'm announcing today, alongside UK technology such as drones, night vision goggles, will save lives, bring down immigration levels, and help us bear down on those responsible for smuggling migrants into the UK. Now, I'm not saying that this isn't going to work, but and I'm not saying that there isn't logic behind it. But there are better ways of doing it. Let's say this £6 million. Let's say that this £6 million was spent on boats and training personnel and fuel and, salaries of people to run a proper border control service, whereby if boats are trying to enter the UK, they just take them back to France, which is where they came from. I know that there is no formal agreement with France to do that, but since they came from France and since we used to have the Dublin Agreement whereby they would take them back because we were a member state, if, let's say, we said just realistically they came from France, so they're coming back to France. If instead we spent that £6 million doing that, I think that these boats would stop overnight. Within a few days or a few weeks of doing this, returning those boats to France, and therefore what would happen there is, I know France would get upset for a bit, but what would happen there most logically is the people that are paying, the last I heard was like £5,000 per seat or whatever for someone individual to get on that boat. And one has to question where they get that £5,000 from to make that perilous journey from France to the UK, and what that £5,000, if it is £5,000 the last I read, could be better spent on, rather than a perilous journey to the UK. But as I say, if within a few days or a few weeks of turning those boats around and sending them back to France, France might get upset for a bit, but the individuals paying that money to cross the channel would probably stop paying it. If they knew that it's a waste of money because they are returned back to France immediately, they would probably stop paying it. And then the people that are running these people smuggling boats across the channel would have no customers. And so they would significantly reduce or stop within, as I say, within days or weeks of doing this. And so then, at the very least, it would drastically reduce almost overnight the number of boats coming across here. And I suspect you could do that for a lot less than £6 million. And I don't know how long it's going to take to educate the people of Tunisia so that they become more employable in their home country, so that they are less likely to make the journey to the UK. I mean, I'm trying to be objective here, but this is absolute plain as day logic. And to me, it is absolutely an admission that they know that people are coming to the UK as economic migrants, because it says here that this new multi-million pound funding programme is to, quote, educate and upskill would-be migrants to become more employable in the home country, and reintegrate those that wish to return, and that will make it less likely that they'll make the dangerous journey in small boats to Europe, including the UK, and undermine the country's border security. And this plan following, you remember the similar plan in the UK-Iraq border security agreement, where we were paying money to, I think that was in tens of millions of pounds, to train them to monitor their own border security. So in a nutshell, Keir Starmer's and David Lamy's plan to, quote, smash the gangs is to educate people in other countries so that they are less likely to come here, so that they're more employable, so they don't need to come here, which in my view proves that they know that they are economic migrants, but also train other countries to monitor their own borders, which I have to be honest seems a little bit odd to me. But let me know what you think in the comments below. I personally think this is an admission from the Foreign Secretary, from this government, that they know that they are economic migrants. By putting these plans in place, they quite literally say they want to educate and upskill would-be migrants to become more employable in their home country, making it less likely that they come to the UK. Tell me that that is not an attempt to prevent economic migration. And if it is so, then we should be tackling this in a very different way. And I think it's a perfectly reasonable argument that if they came from France, which is a safe country, they should go back to France. France, as I say, will probably get upset about it, but they are not unsafe going back to France. If they are picked up in a boat safely and taken back to France safely, then they remain safe. The only difference is they go back to France instead of coming here. That is just an idea. If they really want to stop this, and this is not me saying I'm against all migration, of course not. Some people are genuinely fleeing war zones and dangerous areas and so on, and genuinely need our support. That is, of course, right. And there are many routes of legal migration. There are lots and lots of hoops to jump through to go through legal migration. And of course, there are many arguments to support that. This is not against it altogether, and this is not to sow divide. This is not to give rise to hatred or anything of the kind. This is a genuine legal commentary on if they genuinely want to eliminate irregular, as they call it, migration to the UK. They want to tackle irregular migration. I think this post and this program is as near an admission that these are economic migrants as we are likely to get. Like I said, let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Please do that. Help me reach 1 million subscribers. And as always, thank you for watching.